Testing the Limits by Rye. A voice screamed, casting a terrible echo into a tremendous chasm that was both dark and directionless. "Shut it down!" an authoritative voice boomed from all directions like an unexpected thunderclap. Bodies moved with the speed of Satan stealing a soul, yet remained still as statues of salt as they went about crazed errands at the command of the booming voice. "The neural cerebral enhancer isn't responding," another voice replied from both near and far away. It's shattering his bones like an elephant trampling a model house of toothpicks," the authoritative voice snapped. "Shut down the NCE. Now!" But the 4.5-year-old boy just screamed as his bones broke like pieces of chalk. The entire spectacle of human frailty was witnessed by the huge emerald skull that loomed from its elevated vantage, a skull that glowed with emerald radiance as it celebrated the boy's torture with a malevolent grin. "Okay, Alex," Lindsay called from the hallway, startling Alex Anderson from his nightmare as though a live electrical wire had grazed him. "I'm heading out. Anything else before I go?" Alex calmed and took a look around to make sure everything was where he needed it. Life with cerebral palsy was a lot like chess. The better the player knew the board and the positions of his pieces, the better a strategy he could devise if the game took a surprise curve. "I'm fine, Lindsay," he called back. "See you at midnight." "Bye," Lindsay replied. The front door voiced its own salutation as it was opened and closed, leaving Alex on his own. He returned his eyes to the television and sipped at his drink, turning his thoughts away from his nightmare. He liked Lindsay. She was a wonderful caregiver, someone willing to go over and above to accommodate Alex's needs, even though others would have paid her far more and asked for far less. Then again, Lindsay was not in the field for money. In her occupation, a generous salary was as common as that pot rainbows were known for. But she was devoted to the work anyway, and Lindsay's compassion made her worthy of a halo in his eyes. Having someone like Lindsay in his life filled him with warmth, like an open fire on a cold night. Alex's relationship with the government bureaucracy that provided his home care supports also gave Alex a sense of warmth, one that could burn in Alex's gut like acid thrown onto flame. The government's definition of adequate personal care clashed with Alex's view like an ice cube onto a hot plate. The government seemed to view home care support recipients with a cookie-cutter mentality, as though people were cut out of the same sheet of dough and had the same shape and flavor as all the others. Services were doled out the same way, as if an automated assembly line clunked out programs and services according to the rigid specifications of that cookie cutter, regardless of an individual's actual needs. So Alex did the only thing he could do when faced with that mentality. He defied the mentality and went his own way. As long as the money provided for his home care was spent and accounted for properly, the government usually left him alone. Of course, there were times when the system would attempt to bring him in line with its mentality. Then Alex would fight back. Usually by becoming ringmaster in the public relations circus that Alex directed until the right person in the proper administrative office wandered out from under the political big top bad enough. He knew some people did not approve of his methods, but when it came to his health and quality of life, Alex had to win. Being reliant on a government bureaucracy for all his daily needs was as comfortable as life in a tank of bloody water full of sharks. If Alex was not a shark, he would become a guppy, the preferred appetizer of the sharks. With that thought, Alex switched off the television, took a deep breath for calm and courage, and headed out. The night had the chill of a walk-in freezer, and Alex was glad he'd been able to put a jacket on, one of the many freedoms he had discovered a year ago. Alex had been listening to the radio, his television on with the sound muted, when his stereo shrieked like a demon with a vendetta, a demon whose vengeance came in the form of a signal disruption that distorted a bikini-clad Megan Fox into an image a toddler might make with finger paints. The signal disruption was as traumatic as it was unjust, triggering some kind of seizure that left Alex screaming and flailing on the floor like a hooked fish. Lindsay had taken him to the hospital, where a doctor, in the absence of any diagnosis, said the chance of an event like that ever happening again was about 1 in a billion. Alex was hospitalized for a few days of observation and released with no noted after effects. The unnoted after effects would show up and scare the hell out of him a few days later. Alex had again been watching the television when his mind began to wander into a deep daydream. His doze was dramatically interrupted by a sudden burning sensation that exploded across his forehead. It was as though someone had taken a cigarette lighter to his brow. In that instant, his body was seized by agony, with his muscles reacting as though they were being simultaneously severed from their tendons and picked at with tweezers sporting barbed tips. Even so, his torment became amazement when he realized he was sitting straighter and with perfect balance, his body under his full control. Then, seconds later, he blinked and the control vanished. It would happen again over the following weeks, usually while he was falling asleep. Over time, Alex gained enough control and confidence in the phenomenon to begin self-experiments, though none had been as bold as tonight's undertaking. Alex maneuvered his motorized wheelchair along the sidewalk. Toward the nearby university campus, a trip his unseen disability would have made impossible a few years ago. Anxiety had been a great anchor weighing down Alex's life since childhood, but it was not until his senior high school year that the emotional hook found purchase over his life. One second Alex was working on his English final, the next he was overwrought with the terror of a drowning man, his heart pounding with the speed and force of an uncontrolled jackhammer. The sensations retreated from his mind as quickly as they had assaulted, but reappeared later that summer. The panic became a persistent and unwelcome intruder that came back more strongly every time with every reappearance. Then, in the summer of '92, the panic attacked again, and Alex broke before its invasion. When Alex was 14, he could spend up to 12 hours outside alone. At 19 years of age, Alex became hysterical if he lost sight of his caregiver while outside his home. It was ironic that Alex was so fearless before an adversarial bureaucracy, yet horrified by the thought of a triple loan to the convenience store. It had taken him 17 years to reclaim a taste of his lost independence. Even now, controlling the fear was like leash training a fevered grizzly, but at least it was leashed.